The real deals are on the air now. And now, live from the Swords of St. Michael Studios, it's The Real Deal, Pharaoh's Deal.
What'd you guys think of that? Oh my gosh, my son, he's so brilliant. Welcome everyone tonight. This is our Hallows Tide show. I'm so glad you could make it. I'm sorry I'm so joyful, but I'm glad to be here. I am glad to see the chat filling up. You know what that means? I don't have to worry about you guys on the road doing something you shouldn't be doing. Hey, Tony B, Spa Diva, Athena, Santo, Rosalie. So good to see you all. Rach, you made it. Tonight, we've got an interesting show planned for you. As you know, it is All Hallows Tide. We're going to talk a little bit about Halloween, some of the interesting and not so interesting origins of what people have done through the centuries and why we are in the Triduum of Death. Yes, we're in the 3 days of celebrating the dead. So we're going to get to that in a moment. Deb's going to be joining us. Deb, you out there? Deb.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, sweetie. How are you?
Good.
Do you have, like, lots of trick-or-treaters at your door?
I didn't have not one. I only have 4 houses on my dark road.
Oh my gosh. I'm on the phone. I'm texting Dennis and I'm like, Jacob's hearing a noise and he wants me to go look for prowlers. And I'm like, no. I forgot it's Halloween. So, okay, we had to like shut that down right away. I'm serious. We didn't get any candy because we never get trick-or-treaters, you guys. Never. It's so funny. And trick-or-treating has been really popular here, kids, since about the late 1800s, early 1900s. You know, kids and people have been doing kind of crazy things to dress up and stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute. First off, before we get started, please give us a like if you're new to the channel. I will tell you that we are a spiritual warfare ministry counseling kind of place for you to be. If you got questions, please post them down below the video. If you see something I haven't covered, we love your critiques, we love your comments, and please don't forget to hit that cute little bell, the subscribe button, and we're going to say our Saint Michael the Archangel prayer, kids. Okay. In nomine Patri et Filio et Spiritus Sancti, sic et principio et nunc et semper et saecula saeculorum. Amen. Sancta Michael Arcangele, defende nos imbrelio, contra nequitiam et insidiis diaboli est presidium. Imperire Deus, supplices de precamur tuque, princeps maletia celestis satana maliosque, spiritus malignos, qui ad perditionem animarum perberganter, in mundo divina virtute, in inferdum detrude. Amen.
Amen.
Hey, Tony C made it. Thank you, Tony. Oh my gosh, I thought we were going to be without a moderator kick people out tonight, and he made it. I'm so glad. Oh my gosh. So, as I was saying, kiddies, if you're just joining us, this is all about the Death Triduum. 3 days of celebrating the dead. Here we go. Okay, Deb. All Hallows Eve. Do you remember what you guys used to do when you were kids and you guys were celebrating it growing up?
Of course I do. I'm old, but not that old. I still have a memory.
You know what I mean? Did you guys, like, you know, when you went to church, did they sit there and bang and go, you must remember, bring out the dead? I mean, what was, like, some of the things that went on in the household there?
Oh, yeah. Repeat that again, please.
What were some of the interesting things that went on in the household? Like, what did you guys do to prepare? It's like every year in my family, if we weren't at Grandma's eating, Mom would open a can of Sloppy Joe stuff and say, here, honey, brown some hamburger, and we're making Sloppy Joes. I'm like, okay, Mom. We had sloppy.
Eat this before you go out trick-or-treating.
I know, right?
I don't think anyone in the household actually ate dinner before going out trick-or-treating.
Really?
Because they were so busy, right. They were so busy when they got home from school putting their makeup and putting their costumes together, because my family always enjoyed making their own costumes.
Yes.
So it wasn't, I had the straw ball a couple times as a child where you had that plastic mask over your face and you couldn't breathe. But when my brothers were little, seeing how I was the oldest one, I would do all their makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was right after that, we, set out and went trick-or-treating. I took them out.
Oh, my gosh.
Dragging all of them.
So you had to be responsible for everyone.
Right.
Interesting. Right. Interesting. Yeah, we didn't do anything special as far. I mean, it's if you kids are, we're all a variety of denominations here, kids. Most of us are, professed Christians. In Catholic households, normally you got to go to mandatory mass the day after Halloween for All Souls Day, and Halloween led up to it because All Hallows Eve was the night that they held the vigil mass for the dead. And like I said, we're just going to give you kind of a little bit of a background description. Thanks, Doris. You're so sweet. Back about the 3rd century, after all the Christians had been munched by the lions in the Colosseum and they were lit on fire, so they could literally be torches for Nero having his orgies and his parties. And I know that's a disgusting thing, but I can't say it any nicer. By the 3rd century, was it Pope, I can't remember his name, Deb. Got to refer to notes. I apologize, kids. But it was Gregory the 13th. No, this was St. Odilo. Basically decided that they were going to take that huge Colosseum and make it where all the martyrs died. They were going to consecrate it. So what they did was they exorcised it. They totally exorcised the whole place, and they said, we're going to remember the martyrs. And this is going to be, a vigil mass, All Hallows Eve, to honor these people that gave their lives. As, Father Jamie's in the house. Hello, Father Jamie. Remembering everybody that said, no, I'm not going to worship pagan gods. I'm only going to worship the one true God. That's how this whole thing started. It kind of snowballed. A lot of people think that Halloween has got, and especially the westernized version, Deb, okay? I know you're familiar with European traditions and some of our southern traditions that do the whole Day of the Dead, Dias de los Muertos, that kind of thing. And there's a lot of voodoo and a lot of stuff that's really crazy. What we're talking about is what has morphed into our Western culture's idea of, remember those plastic masks I posted on Facebook? The kinds that flip over the face and you're breathing and you're breaking out in hives because of the plastic. And those plastic costumes, oh my gosh. So we're talking way long ago. This was just a fun commercial event set up for adults to have fun. This is one of the biggest money makers all year round. It's second only to Christmas, literally, for the Halloween costumes, Halloween parties, mass balls, that sort of thing. So what morphed from this triduum of death of remembering the dead, remembering the martyrs for 3 days, snowballed through the Irish and the English, the period of the medieval time when the Catholics couldn't even, they couldn't practice being a priest. It was illegal. And, we're talking 1600s, sometime around there, right, Deb? So basically they couldn't do anything. You couldn't have mass, you couldn't have communion, et cetera, et cetera. But what did they have? They had a soul cake. And they'd knock on doors for soul cakes. And when the Catholics knocked on the doors of the Protestant houses asking for a soul cake, they would pray for the dead. And it would be considered a blessing to have your dead prayed for. I kid you not. There's so many layers of how our Western civilization got to the point of dressing up and getting crazy. There's all sorts of things that point to some of the things we do. And a lot of people take it to the extreme and say, we shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be celebrating. You shouldn't be doing this. I have to tell you, from everything that I've observed, Deb, and everything that I've researched, I don't really see anything wrong the way we grew up practicing Halloween. It was innocent. We were not celebrating pornography. We weren't celebrating anything horrible or ugly. We were nurses and princesses and stuff like that. Do you remember those kind of crazy costumes, Deb? Like robots?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so it was really...
Or how about the gypsies?
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh.
There was always a gypsy costume.
Always.
I was gypsy once.
Oh, you
In
were?
a wit.
Well, it's like, you could always go through your aunt's closet and find something interesting to be. So,
I know.
yeah, right? Or, grandma, sometimes they had those feathered hats that sat in the closets forever, right? So,
Absolutely.
basically, what you got is you've got Irish and English in the 1800s bringing over all these interesting concepts of what they practiced on All Hallows Tide. So they brought the practice of enjoying parties and enjoying, getting dressed up and enjoying knocking on doors for the soul cakes. And pretty soon it became to be a trick or treat. If you didn't give me a soul cake, I'd play a trick on you, and then it turned to vandalism, which is kind of crazy. But
Can't even talk those kind of words today. Vandalism.
I know. And guess what? Oh my gosh.
Clean fun back then.
That's right.
Clean fun back then. Not like today.
I know. And this is just the sadness of it. Okay. I watched a couple of videos so that I could, bring a fresh perspective to my Catholic perspective, because I know there's a great deal of Christian input throughout the years. So I was watching a couple of shows just to give me a different perspective. And I see that it's kind of funny, Deb. People view Halloween and the practice of Halloween a little bit differently depending on where they're coming from. And those people that, hi, Father Jamie. Oh, he was dressed as a monk from the Crusades. Yes, where's my sword? I should have pulled out my sword. Oh my gosh, I had a mask and a sword and everything, Jamie. You know what, Father Jamie? I think I might have to get my St. Joan of Arc day. I'll get out my broadsword and swing it. It sounds like fun. So, in fun, in jest, dressing up, letting your children dress up, bob for apples. People...
Did you skip over Mischief Night?
Yes, I did. Totally skipped over Mischief Night. Hello, Joanna. Your book is in the mail. I skipped over it. You know why? Because it wasn't part of the Catholic Triduum of Death, the 3 days that we lead up into praying for the souls in purgatory, etc.
Hey,
now,
during
the Protestant Reformation, they did away with the whole purgatory thing. They didn't want to. They just were like, no. No, we're not going to worry about that. We're not going to think about it. They did away with it. So it just became an All Souls Day that they kind of kept. Some of them didn't, but that was it. So our practices now of people getting dressed up and having fun, basically it celebrates the end of the harvest. And yes, Tony, it did come up from a tradition of carrying turnips around, and those turnips were ugly. Oh my gosh, they were so ugly. And I think if you look at Halloween from a perspective as a commercial enterprise, it's not anything evil. It's not anything to be afraid of. It's just a cultural phenomena, okay, kids? Don't take it so seriously. However, like Arthur was pointing out in chat, there are instances where people actually do get together and have seances. They get together and they have Ouija board parties. That is the darker side of Halloween. I want to address that, Deb, because many people think it's very, very, shall we say, it's germane to the season, yet it is harmless. Very, very harmless. I don't see it being harmless. And I don't see it, I don't see people as understanding the potential for problems in doing things like that. And as Veronique Rochelle was saying in chat, there are parts of Europe that don't celebrate Halloween at all. She grew up in France. She wasn't in England and Ireland, though, that did celebrate All Hallows Eve. So it's it's kind of crazy depending on where you grew up. So in that caveat, kids, I don't recommend you go trouncing through the graveyard tonight or tomorrow or the next night looking for a soul. You don't have to look for souls. They'll find you. Another thing, too, that people, for some reason or another, in at this time of the year, there is a lot of superstition. I want to just like tell everybody, let's get the superstitions out of the way. A superstition that irritates the heck out of me, Deb, is the one where people think that for some reason or another, this time of year, because of the pagan Celtic practice or Celtic practice of Samhain at the end of the month, which looks like Samhain on paper, is so horrible and so deadly. And if you look at the Celtic calendar, they did this every month at the end of the month. Samhain was also another name for November. All it meant was it was the end of the growing season. So
that's right.
Yeah, and a lot of people think, well, geez, you know, there's got to be more. There's got to be more to it than that, and there really, really isn't. So to attach an importance, a deadly importance to something that is just kind of historical paganism, that kind of bothers me. Now, when you're talking about child kidnapping, you're talking about satanic sacrifice, you're talking about the Crowleyites, the Satanists, the people that have come into their own idea of covens and Wiccan that didn't exist a couple hundred years ago, and all of a sudden have westernized that. That's dangerous. That's nothing you want to mess with. Deb, the notion that people have carried forward, and I see this repeated a lot, I want to just smash it in the head right now. There is a very popular belief that the veil between life and death is the thinnest right now. Guess what? It's that way all the time. All the time. All the time. Yeah. It's not thinnest this time of year. I will tell you, though, from Queen Anne Hill to the Sandias to Sedona to parts of Texas to there are places everywhere on this planet where principalities and powers are stronger. That's not a veil. That is a dominion of evil. So if the ancient Celts were talking about a veil, Deb, I believe they were potentially talking about maybe certain mounds that were dedicated to certain demons, certain higher demons.
Exactly.
So I think that from my understanding of demonology, that must be the veil. Because there is no time of year that the veil is thinnest. There are spirits all the time. And if anything, this time of year or Easter, I'd rather have this time of year. Why? Because this doesn't compare to Easter. Easter is really, really, really rough. So that's out of the way. Anything to add about some of the history, Deb? Anything funny? Oh, you were talking about Mischief Night. Do you have any idea how that started, dear?
I don't know how it started, but I know I participated when I was a teenager.
Oh, really?
But I was only allowed to take a bar of soap. I wasn't allowed to take the toilet paper. That's too expensive.
Oh, my gosh.
And it would ruin people's vehicles and stuff like that, so I was only allowed a bar of soap.
Oh, I agree. It's like, and a bar of soap is cleaning, right?
Right.
And what was Mischief Night all about? Was it just like, was it kind of like...
Well, what we did it for, it was known, that was to let people know Halloween's coming. The next night was Halloween.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So true.
It was like we had 2 free nights without our parents.
Yes. And that was just, I don't know, who was I talking to the other day about all the candy that we would get? And, you know, kids today, they have no idea. We would just get, do you remember the mounds of just everything? I mean, you'd get cookies.
You would have to take a pillowcase with it because it would be so much.
Yes, exactly. And today it's like you get like a little tiny blip of chocolate and you're like, eh. I remember taking you guys, this is so much fun. taking the kids out. And Holly, if you're listening, girl, Robin, Holly, oh my gosh, we used to go out as the Witches of Chelsea. And we would go to certain neighborhoods that, we knew, everybody knew us. So the kids were getting their candy, pop us one, and we would get anything from whole candy bars, food, here, have some food, wine coolers, just about anything. So it depends on where you
I
grow
lived in
up.
the wrong neighborhood if you got the wine coolers.
Oh my gosh, we got better than that. We had the local police, they'd leave their door unlocked, and we'd go in and we'd go help ourselves in the freezer because they knew we were walking the road, we weren't driving. But yeah, that's oh my gosh, the costumes too. We did robots. We don't do stuff like we do now. If you look at our culture, kids, our focus now is so much on demons and evil, and you see these devils, and you see, horned creatures. Now, for some reason or other, that was the thing back in the 1800s, to try and get kids not to be afraid. But I don't know, Deb, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, it was more, gypsies and wolves and, be something, kind of fun, like a robot.
Oh, another one, it was, my mother always said, dress up like a hobo, like a bum. That,
That was the go-to.
And
oh my gosh. Grandpa always had a bottle. Here's an empty bottle. Take a bottle. Or he'd just pour the rest of the
or a corncob pipe to go with that.
Yes. I know you
And a straw hat,
would
and
never get a
scarecrow.
cigar. You would never get a cigar.
Yeah.
Never.
And you know what I was thinking about? It's a flashback from what you were saying before.
Yeah.
About the veil and the spirits and this and that.
Yes.
And spirit is with us all the time.
Oh,
All
exactly.
the time.
Exactly. And so
All
many
year
people.
long. And if someone passes, and if you're grieving that badly,
Mm-hmm.
and the Lord will let the person who passed, the spirit, come back and visit you.
Yes.
To check on you and try to help you in any way they can.
I agree.
Because they have to get good merits on the other side as well.
Well, and that's just it. People don't really understand, and they don't look at, the saints and how they were exposed to some of the trials and some of the fires. And that's what we have the saints for. That's what we have the remembrance of, these triduum of these 3 days. So,
Right.
it just, we have to look at it as the people that had faith and went before us. There's a reason. There's a reason that, we look to them. There's a reason we remember them. And, I actually think I wrote down the quotes because people are like, oh, this isn't in the Bible. This isn't this isn't that. Okay, excuse me, kids. I think it is Maccabees, all right, if I can remember correctly. In Maccabees, it talks about praying for and remembering the dead, okay? Mm-hmm. Got that? All right, and for you New Testament people weeples, Luke, go to Luke. It talks about specifically that we remember the saints, and we honor and we pray for them. I didn't write the chapters down. I'm just like, psh. Sorry, guys. I'm just not that coordinated tonight. I just wanted to have fun anyway. Okay, so we talked about all that stuff. We know there's a great cultural history. It's not that ugly. It's not that evil. And then there is a very evil dark side that we definitely want you to avoid if you can. Don't do seances. Don't get your cards read. Don't get your tea leaves read. Anything that is divination, anything that invites another source before God is an offense to God.
That includes your horoscopes. Do not do it.
Exactly.
Do not read.
It's a direct violation of the first commandment. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. So just keep that in mind. All right? Keep that in your back pocket. No other gods before me, and you'll be good. Okay? I think that all of us can agree to that. Not good. And enjoy. If you we didn't decorate for Halloween. We didn't do anything. Once the kids got older than 13, they stopped trick-or-treating. They'd go with Star Wars, or they'd go to the school and have fun and play games. We do live in a
Oh,
different...
what's wrong with just buying a bag of candy and saying, "Here, kids, enjoy"?
Exactly.
Let's watch the movie.
Mm-hmm. I know. What's wrong with that? There's so many churches today that are opening their doors and understanding that, the Halloween celebration is more than going door to door, worrying about whether your kid's going to have, a razor blade come in or poison in some of the candy.
Or a needle.
Exactly. And so we kind of have to be careful, and we have to watch. We don't want to be over scrupulous. We want to be in the world, but not of it. So in other words, we're called as disciples of Christ. We have to be out there, and we have to enjoy what's given to us. It doesn't mean we have to be part of it, or we have to break commandments to go enjoy it. Okay, Deb, shall we do our questions? You want to do a couple ghost stories? We've got about 15, 20 minutes left, Deb. Which would you like to do first?
I'll let you start because I'm getting texts from all different angles over here telling me how my story's on TV right now, and I'm out here on the phone with you.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm getting dings, texts. I was having phone calls before, and I'm hitting ignore, and I'm going, yeah, I know, it's Halloween. And even my husband called me this morning from work. Well, on I-95 radio, and so I turned it on, and it happened to be the guy who interviewed me 40 years ago.
Oh, no way.
Oh, yeah. And he also interviewed the Warrens. He interviewed the priest.
Oh, my gosh.
So he told the story to the radio show.
Really?
And, oh, yeah, and he said what the priest had told him, he goes, I won't disclose ever. Mm-hmm. He goes, but it sent a chill up my spine. And he talked to the Brookfield police.
Really?
And he goes, and I can't give you my opinion. He spoke of what he could about the case when it first broke. And he goes, I'll just leave it at that. I mean, because he talked for about an hour.
Yes.
And so, because a news reporter can't give their opinion. He can only tell you how he felt. And he was pretty nervous after he did the interviews. Especially, he goes, when he had 6 priests sitting in front of him in the courtroom. And then he got to interview Father Francis Virgilac. He was one of the exorcists.
Yes.
Yeah, and so he goes, what he said to me, he goes, I'll never forget, it sent a chill down my spine.
Wow.
He goes, if this judge, and he also explained that Arnie's attorney, Martin Manila, didn't have his case in on time.
Oh, my gosh.
He could have claimed insanity, he could have claimed possession, he could have claimed anything.
Yes.
His attorney didn't have, what he was going to say, and it wasn't in on time.
Oh,
and I always told you that. Remember I always said that to you?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
With the paper you had to have in, it's habeas corpus, and that allows your defense, and I don't care what it is. That judge wanted to hear the story just as much as anybody else. And the priest had told this news reporter, if we had to testify, you would have had one story to write.
Oh my God.
Then you'd have, and he goes, then you'd have a story to write. So I go, oh my God. So I turned it on after Arnie called me, and I listened. And so then, of course, I text the radio station.
Yes.
And so the interviewer's name back then was Mike Allen. And so I told the radio station, tell Mike Allen Debbie said hello.
Aww.
Because he kept talking about me. And so then after that, this afternoon, I get a text message and a friend request from the radio station. Because the radio was always intrigued about this story. They bring it up every year.
Really? Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
honey. Yeah, well, it's I have to say, I know the worst cases in America, and I still think yours is the worst, sweetie. Absolutely
you know
worst.
what? You always think, actually, my husband and I, we spoke this past weekend, last, and when you're in front of a bunch of people and you're telling a story and this and that, and of course, I start to cry.
Yes,
a
honey.
little bit, because it brings me back to flashbacks, because the first question was in the room before we had to speak. They said, oh, who's watched all the Conjuring movies? Who's watched all the Annabelle movies? And they're all raising their hands and this and that. And so when it came time for me to speak, I had to say, when the question was, who watched all the Conjuring movies and who watched all the Annabelle movies?
Yes.
And I told everybody, I said, I have to tell you, I haven't watched them. I can't watch them.
Yes.
I don't know, PTSD. I said,
I think so.
I said, I've watched The Exorcist. I said, that's my husband's favorite movie. I said,
I know.
I could watch that. I said, but I cry. He goes, what are you crying about? I said, because we went through that. And I explained to people, The Exorcist movie is about the closest thing to what we went through.
Yes.
And they said, well, how do you know The Exorcism worked, the last one, when you went out of the country, this and that? I could say it now without crying, but when you're in a room full of over 200 people,
Oh, damn.
It just hits me, but I'm okay now because I'm on radio and I don't see anybody.
Exactly. You don't have to see the looks in their eyes that draws you out to remember everything you experienced.
Exactly. And so I said to them, we knew it was gone when the church windows blew out and the sun came shining through. And right then and there, I knew it was gone. And David looks up and says, Mom, he's gone.
Yeah.
And we all knew. And that's when I cried during my speech. And it's like I didn't want to cry in front of people. It just happened.
Yeah.
I know. Because I'm not looking at anybody right now. I'm on radio.
Yes.
But it's to see the people's faces, because I'm looking right at each and every body panning. And it was getting to me, and it's, it's hard to explain.
Well, I understand, Deb. I totally understand the PTSD that you're experiencing, but people that haven't experienced it.
Yeah, it's easier to do radio than to sometimes do it in person. Because in person, my emotions come out.
Yes.
Well,
it's almost like you don't have anywhere to hide. There's nowhere. It's so raw. It's so incredibly raw.
You can't hide behind anything. There's nowhere to hide.
No.
Even though there was a bishop there,
yes.
where we were talking,
And that's the thing people don't understand, is that this was more than just, people think that they can have a causal incidents of being exposed to a psychic or a tarot card reader or whatever, and think that, oh no, this person prayed over me, oh no, this isn't really a Ouija board, this is an angel board, and I'm just going to talk to my angels. A full-blown possession.
Sarah, you are so right, because of the fact, even though we were at that show the other night last week.
Oh, yes.
All right, everybody,
we're not going to say the name of it. We're not going to give it anything.
No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. And you know who you feel like you can trust, and you know
who you can. Yes.
Know who you cannot trust. And I dodged a few people because I said I can't be around them because I felt such bad, evil presence coming from them.
Oh, I hear
so I would. I kept my eyes on them. because when it was time for them to either come up or get autographs or take pictures and stuff, I made sure I dodged them because I knew they were trying to zero in on me, and I said I got to stay away from these people because I could just feel it from them, just, coming right out of them, and there's no way I wanted to be near them at all.
That's the gift of presence.
I don't care if you call me crazy or not, but
No, honey, I am
everyone.
validating. I am validating what you are saying because there was a post in one of the groups about Bob Larson, the supposed doctor of demons from Arizona, and his daughters, and basically, as you can sense those presences on people, you can see it in what he's doing to people when he's trying to lay hands on them. And I was amazed at how many people in this Catholic group thought that Bob Larson was truly removing a demon from a human being when you can see exactly what he's doing. And those people that you were exposed to, Deb, you're wise to stay away. Because kids, if you're listening, and I don't mean just kids, I mean everyone, if you're listening, once you brush up and you stick your nose where it doesn't belong, we've already got demonics following us everywhere. But you attract them like a piece of raw meat left on the counter for bees, for yellow jackets, for roaches. It's almost as if you just put a humongous target and said, hey, doors open, come on in. And that's what Deb was talking about. You do not want to brush up against anything that you know is evil and is attracting evil and is open to it. And this is why you want to be very careful. Yes.
I saw it, and I didn't want no part of it.
Mm-hmm. And that's a hard thing to do, especially if you're working with people like we've been talking about with our, our narcissist series, which, we're going to be continuing after. I've got to, Deb, I'm going to have to try and send you the notes from that movie that I was interviewed, because we're going to do that, I think, next week. I'm going to do a breakdown of the movie.
Like to see that.
Yeah, I promised Ryan I would do it, and I didn't want to be on camera, so, we kept it, mic'd and everything, and I'm looking forward to seeing Ryan's film, but he did it about the exorcism prayer, so I'm excited about that. So, okay, do we have a ghost story, or should we tell a ghost story at the end? Because I kind of want to get to these two questions that were asked, Deb. Should I just jump into those real quick? And we can get those off.
Then we'll go to the ghost stories.
Okay, yeah, because it's already 8:37. I really want to get into them. All right, you guys, for tonight's show, I had to pick out two questions that I thought were very germane to tonight, especially because of the supposed season that we were in, the All Hallows Tide type season thing. And I'm not going to mention names unless I've been given name or the permission to use the first name of someone. And this is really important, Deb, because I think you can address this, and we'll both talk about it a little bit. The question is now, if a certain demon, or demons never come singly, kids, trust me. If a certain demon has entered into your home, and that place is sealed, which she called it a demonic portal. If this portal's been sealed, how can the demons get back into the house if all members are living in a state of grace? So by using the state of grace, Deb, I'm thinking she's talking about Catholicism. And what other possibilities other than a family member in mortal sin? Thank you. God bless you guys for all you do. And this is from Tessie. The question basically, as I understand it, Deb, is once the demons have been rebuked and once, where they entered has been closed, and everybody they're going to church, they're having communion, they're being good. How else? What are the other ways that a demon can get in?
Through attachment.
Yeah. But everybody's in a state of grace. So how is it going to, how?
It could be somebody you invited over it could be a friend.
Thank you.
It could be a salesman. It could be anybody that comes into your house that you don't know. And
exactly.
How do you know that the portal has been closed? Number one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the demon's been rebuked. Really, has the demon revealed his name?
Precisely. Precisely.
That's all
Did
I
they
want
get
to
an
know.
exorcist? Did they get an exorcist in there,
Exactly.
to specifically drive out whatever was causing the infestation? Exactly. Those questions weren't answered. So we have to assume that these were. So.
Also, in the chat room, they're saying cursed objects. Right. You can go to a tag sale. You can go to a thrift store, Goodwill. I do that all the time, go to those type of places.
Exactly.
But I always have my holy water, and I never bring nothing into my home unless I bless it first with holy water.
I got to thank Ash for the prayers and love. Thank you, dear. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Much appreciate the support for the show, you guys. I really do. You guys just being here, it really means a lot to Deb and I, because we've got to keep the truth out there. We've got to keep the message going that there is only one way, truth in the life. And you cannot find it anywhere in any other answer with any of the things that are going on TV or anything else, you guys. So I would say, Deb, in order to answer this question, when you're looking at the level of grace of all the parties involved and you're looking at everybody and thinking, well, nobody's done anything wrong. Okay, and people have said cursed objects. We've talked about people that have come over. What about now? And I want to bring this up very casually. I don't want you guys to get freaked out because a lot of people think, oh, I can never become possessed, da 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 da. If you have not repented, in other words, if you have not looked at God and said, you know what, God, I played with tarot cards and I was asking for spirits to come in. I will never do that again. I'm sorry. If you have not repented of a specific sin and sought repentance from God, if you have not done that, you have left a back door wide open, okay? So let's just say that you're in a state of grace and you've gone to confession, but you haven't confessed that sin. You haven't repented of that one sin. And you forgot you were even, it just doesn't occur to you. What does that do? That means that on the occasion that you either make a friend at work, you could have somebody in the next booth next to you that is conjuring, that is playing with alchemy, chemicals. You can date someone or have a casual contact, physical touch, intention, a curse at work, and get seriously ill, have severe financial distress, have all sorts of horrible things just string, just one after another after another. I don't know if anybody saw this on my Facebook page and another group I posted about a young gal, and she wasn't very that young, Deb. I don't know if you saw it. She was actually, she's a healthcare worker like you. She worked in the hospital, very, very intelligent. I don't know if she's a head RN. Basically, what happened? Yes, sprinkle holy water all over your consultation room and claim it back at the end of every day and every morning. Yes. Sorry, I had to get that in there. This nurse had one brush with one person on a gurney. The gurney, they didn't say if that person was into voodoo or what had happened, but they, were obviously very, very injured. I think she was, an ER nurse. Ever since then, her life went down. She couldn't concentrate. She couldn't eat. She took off all her clothes at her family home and started grunting. She fell apart. She was committed. She started hearing voices. Nobody could figure out what was wrong with this beautiful, intelligent, fabulous nurse. No one. It got so bad that they medicated her. They committed her. They did everything they could. The voices never went away. And I will tell you, anybody that's listening right now, people do have biological issues with their brain and with an imbalance. Medication does help in instances that it's biological.
It depends what their medical condition is.
That's right. This was not biological. She ended up breaking away from her wards, the people that were watching over her, and she leapt out of the hospital window to her death because the voices would not shut up. Now, what is that?
They had all the doctors there in the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Why didn't you have a priest?
Thank you.
They have a priest in the hospital.
Not one priest decided, well, let's do our exorcism on her. That would have been like the first thing I would have thought. Like, let's just do an exorcism.
Well, even have the priest come in and pray over her.
Yes, exactly. Why did that happen? We don't know. But the example is pointed out, you guys, because like in this question here, how else can a portal open? How can demons get in? Casual contact. Here's casual contact. Mm-hmm. No one ever thinks of this, do they? How about when you go grocery shopping and you touch the carriage? Yes.
You put your hands right on the carriage.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, anything. You can get illnesses from touching that.
Precisely, and that's just like coughs, colds, and flus. We're not even talking if somebody's looking at you, cursing you.
A lot of times I've taken carriages from people and the handle's still warm. They'll say to me, miss, you want this? And I'll, sure,
Yes. You don't know.
We don't know. We could be bringing home their Klingons.
Yes, exactly. We have no idea.
Or, how about a library? Books have been touched by how many people? Mm-hmm. There's so many ways. That's why everybody needs to bless themselves every day.
Thank you.
Everyone should have holy water in their home and on their person.
Oh, yes. I think the more we realize the importance of daily blessing ourselves, blessing our homes, taking care of our environment.
Our food.
Yeah, oh, my gosh, I know. It's like I've got my kid in the habit of, blessing his food everywhere he goes. He's so cute. But it's important. It's important. We don't think about it. I watched a video that reminded me about cursed objects, as, people were talking about. How many of us, do we know the cook that's preparing our food? Do we know if our food is cursed? Curse won't work if we're blessing it, asking Christ, blood of Christ, wash over this food, bless this food. We don't have to worry. That's the biggest bottom line, you guys. Let's get to the next question so we can get out of here, sweetie, because we're going to be here all night, Deb. I'll tell you what. It's already set.
Right?
I know. It's like it's 10 till. We were going to be done 2 minutes ago. Okay, last question, you guys, for the night. We're going to tell ghost stories. We'll have to do another night of ghost stories, okay, Deb? Where we actually get to talk about ghost stories because we're just kind of like, we're blowing through our night here. The next question is a long one, and this is by somebody that has a wife, or no, the wife's ex, okay? This is a very godly person, married to a beautiful. Thank you so much for the donation. Yes, Esquava. Thank you so much, dear. Thanks for the support. Thanks for supporting the show, you guys. Thank you. So anyway, this is a question regarding curses. Very holy man, married to a very lovely person. The ex is very vicious in nature. Medical diagnosis is classic narcissist. I don't know what kind, but classic narcissist, okay? The ex got the person on the phone and basically said, on the phone, recorded, I'm going to get you, I'm going to get your family one by one, and I am going to do this so you suffer more. So, the question here is, the person is noticing that an uncle got sick, an aunt got sick. The person suffered mental and physical abuse while they were with them. And she's wondering, could the demonic be influencing him to where he's able to curse her whole family? I mean, this is, this was like crazy because the aunt died of a stroke. The uncle is, fatally ill. And these are not, but Deb, they're not our age. They're definitely younger. So the uncle and aunt can't be that old. So the question is this possible for somebody that you don't really know if they're involved in anything? Is it possible that somebody can curse you and have this effect?
Yes. Yes, and you know what?
What's up?
It might sound weird to people, but that other person should pray for the narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
That narcissist needs prayer.
Yes, desperate.
That narcissist needs the most prayers of all.
Thank you, Melissa. We got another donation. Thank you, guys, for supporting Swords of St. Michael Apostolate and the Real Deals channel. You know, Deb, that's something that a lot of us don't think of. When we're talking about the Triduum of Death here, these 3 days that we honor the dead and we honor the martyrs, this is our opportunity to grab prayers and send them to the souls that we believe are in purgatory. And this narcissist, anybody else that is out there cursing people, if they're lucky enough to get to the highest level of hell, which is purgatory, they're going to need prayer. They're going to need you to let go of them and forgive them. And that's one of the hardest things for somebody to do, especially if you suffered abuse at the hands of, somebody that was into black magic or a narcissist. And I'm not telling people to openly pray for people that practice black magic or have committed satanic rituals or voodoo. I would not even mess with that. We're talking about a narcissist here. We're talking about somebody that's mentally ill and maybe basically just a tool of some lower level demonics. Big differentiation than somebody that is willingly, actively participating in a satanic ritual, what they think is a witchcraft act or something like that. Totally different here. But Deb, I think you're 1,000% right. When we look at somebody's...
I don't want people to think I'm crazy because I said to pray for this narcissist, because the fact being a narcissist is a mental condition to begin with. They're already afflicted with their own demons.
Precisely. And they cannot differentiate anything other than how they need to feed and what they have to have and what they have to get from you, basically.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And that's hard for us to understand, that these type of curses basically do occur. And that is one of the reasons we have the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill means that you're not to use your tongue to kill your neighbor. Because the power of the tongue, when you invoke spirits, when you invoke the angels, when you invoke the demons, you have the ability to kill people. We have to be very, very careful. That's why every word out of our mouth tells people where we are, who we are. Salt water and fresh water does not come from the same source. So we need to check our salt water at the door, kids. Totally. And I'm sorry, you guys, we didn't get to the ghost stories tonight. That was our 2 questions about curses. Breaking curses, prayers are important. Forgiveness is important. And as we think about praying for our loved ones, for those martyrs that have gone before us, and offering prayers, tomorrow is an opportunity of fasting and prayer. It used to be fasting and prayer. Now today, I think some people give up meat, and others, maybe nothing at all. But the next 2 days, like tonight is the Vigil Mass, this is an opportunity for us. If you have family members that potentially harmed you, if you have any family members that you're worried about, it's a good idea. Pray for them tonight before you go to bed. Any last thoughts, Deb?
What's that, Vera?
Any last thoughts?
No, that's about it.
All right, well, we want to remind you here at The Real Deals with our Debba that guess what? The battle's already won, and we're here to help you fight the fight and win it right. Right, kids? So thank you so much for joining us, Deb, as always. Oh, my gosh.
Thank you.
Everybody loves having you, and maybe you can catch the end of whatever it is everybody's telling you is on live TV. Thank you all for the support. Please give us a thumbs up if you're new to the channel. And if you are liking spiritual warfare topics, you have any ideas, post them in the comments below, please. Give us a little click on the little bell so you get notifications when we start some new series as we get rolling. Thank you all in the chat for joining us. Deb, good night.
Thanks.
God bless your All Hallows Eve, kiddies. Thanks, Tony, for booting and scooting everybody in chat. Night, guys.
Night.
The Real Deal TV show, copyright 2018, a Swords of St. Michael production. Any unauthorized duplication or rebroadcast or retransmission of this broadcast without the express written permission of the Swords of the Saint Network or that of Hallows Eve is strictly prohibited.